I'm excited to see what happens, everyone. It is picks and bans for game number 3, the final game of Dignitas versus Spacestation Gaming. Make some noise, everyone. Because this is going to be one of, if not the most exciting game of that. Like, it's match number 1, and we've already had insane games.
It's just make it or break it point right now. Like Fine mentioned earlier, this is essentially a best of 1 by this point, and the Chang'e is really interesting to see Dignitas prioritize. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm very surprised by that. But they first picked the Serket, so that makes a lot more sense. However, this does leave the Athena open up for Space Station, which I wouldn't be surprised for them to pick. But Dig doesn't really know exactly how Space Station wants to play. Space Station may not even want to pick the Athena, and I don't know if Dig will actually pick it. I do think if they do, it would be a variety god, because Trix has been playing a lot more aggressive characters lately. I
don't know if they were really expecting that. This is the slowest they've been in their first pick. They've had a very fast pick, the first pick band, or pick phases, sorry. And they definitely seem to be going a little bit slower here. Demi definitely seems to be a little bit more involved in the picks and bans phase.
I am a little bit surprised, though, to see a lack of Sobek presence, because I think that Sobek kind of brings what Space Station are looking for. He's got that heavy peel for his backline if needed. He's also got really strong initiation off of the pluck and a lot of interrupt, but there's the Athena I think we were all waiting for and kind of expecting Space Station to bring out. It's just too good to build around that taunt, and especially if they're looking for a double hunter yet again, there is still some chance, I think, that we see this Chiron being the first of 2 hunters.
And we were talking about this, Fenrir got banned out last game. Now Fenrir and Serket on Team Dignitas' side. Are they going for an early aggression here? Are they trying to change up their playstyle entirely?
Yeah, that's definitely a lot more early game. 2 of the basically highest kill pressure gods in the game right now, Serket and Fenrir. Serket and Journal Fenrir most likely in support. And they're going to combo with the Discordia. So a really good combo right now is Discordia and Fenrir, because you apply Discordia passive to your Fenrir support. And all Fenrir wants to do at level 1, level 2, level 3 is just jump on the enemies on cooldown. So it's going to help a lot with that.
I'm almost curious if there's possibilities of an Awelish pick for Space Station. Andy did lean towards it not too long ago, and even though Awelish isn't necessarily heavily prioritized because she can be a little bit weaker in the early game aspects since her Featherstep nerf, I still feel like you can't ever really go wrong when there's 3 gods that already have the setup for Gravity Surge self-imposed.
Yeah, all 3 of them have leaps, can easily pull them. I'm also a little bit interested that they haven't really picked anything to counter Athena too much. I mean, Fenrir is a decent character into Athena because he can eat the Athena and pull her out of position basically across the entire lane. However, a dodgy pickup to combo off the Athena, so that basically anybody who has beats, they're always going to be down.
Dodgy is someone that we really saw during the season, but not in the qualifiers. What exactly, why did we not see her as often?
A little bit. From time to time, I think she made her pop-ups in her debuts. I think Dodgy is more of a niche pick. She's a god that you pick for very specific compositions, and for what Space Station are leaning towards, off of the Athena taunts like Fine just mentioned, I think Dodgy is always such a strong acquisition to bring that extra little bit of backup. That way, if anybody has their beads down, or even maybe look to initiate with a Powwow ultimate off Dodgy, because burning the beads there and then getting a multi-taunt off Athena could be massive.
Also, they already have the Chiron, which is a really good pick into Dodgy because it easily cleanses the Dodgy ultimate, which obviously pulls people. And they also ban out the Geb, so they don't have to worry about Trixtank constantly playing the Geb to cleanse all the Dodgy CC.
Also banning out that Jing Wei, so it looks like they think that Space Station is going to be going double Hunter again there. Probably Chiron going to Venenu in mid.
Definitely, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised to see Aqua play Athena either, because they have been playing Athena solo a bit lately, and I think it actually favors or is a better solo right now than it is in support. So.
These bans taking a while to get through here. Who do you want to see Dig ban out?
Dignitas are probably going to look to try and strip away another Hunter here. They've already taken out Jing Wei. There is a chance that they could just remove the Hachiman just to be extra safe.
Yeah, and also I don't think they should ban out Jeff because he still has Sylvanas, Cerberus, even Ardio, which obviously did really well last game.
So why ban out Ron instead of Ullr, who even though Dig lost last game, Ullr did really well?
It's just because of the fact that Arkkyl is such a strong ROM. I think that that's also a pick that he tends to lean towards whenever his back's against the wall or whenever Dignitas is in these make it or break it sort of situations. ROM is one of those really safe picks in dual lane still, and without Jing Wei to harass him necessarily, I think that they could have been incredibly safe with that.
Another thing to add to that is that Ullr doesn't have any CC immunity in his kit, So he's actually a really bad pick into Daji.
Okay.
So he's going to have to use his beats every single time, whereas Rama will have his ultimate.
So they're not even concerned for them to pick Uber.
They actually probably want them to pick Uber in this situation. So
the less CC immune ults, the better, basically, for the Daji. And I think that Daji could run into some struggles because Andy's going to have to be very peculiar about his timing and his patience, at least for those 3 initial picks from Dignitas.
Audio ban, that seems pretty standard.
yes. That's just another character that can force active really easily.
But Terra being picked, I'm actually surprised that we haven't really seen a Terra pick or ban until now.
Yeah, I agree. It's also 2 flex picks right now, so Terra and Athena can both be played in solo or support. Now that they have Terra, I'm leaning towards a solo Terra and more of an Athena support. However, you can't really tell this far in the draft.
Chernobog for the first time, definitely saw him a lot during the qualifiers. What does Chernobog add to the team mechanics?
He's just a constant threat on the map because anytime that you think that a team fight might be going in your favor, there's always the possibility of Chernobog showing up with that living nightmare, and having so much damage mitigation as well just constantly makes him a force to be reckoned with.
Look at these 2 teams, they're completely different. How do you think that the early game is going to go? This is going to be crazy.
I do think Dig drafted a lot better for the early game this time around, especially with the Discordia Fenrir combo. And I think Spacestation actually drafting more towards those team fights. Even though they have the double Hunter as they lock in Hachiman, they still have that early game pressure, but Terra Athena, 2 Guardians in the team fights is going to provide so much CC.
2 Guardians, 2 Hunters, and then a Daji in the middle there. That's going to be a really interesting matchup here, guys. But I got to ask the question. It's 1-1 now. This is essentially a best of 1, as you said, Fine OK. The winner of this is going to be going up against the winner of Splice versus Obey. Who do you give it to, just looking at the comps?
Space Station.
If Space Station, I think, have a much easier time. They have a much easier chance because they have constant initiation. Dignitas, however, if their execution is perfect, I think they bring it home.
That's such a... How can you say that for Dignitas, though, who has trouble with execution at lands?
But that's the thing. This is what it's really all about. You finally get this is the best opportunity you could possibly imagine to see whether or not Dignitas is up to snuff when it really matters.
And, yeah, I guess they're not going to be worried about that early aggression that we saw from Andy because they picked out the Circuit from him. Are they going to be playing far more aggressive, kind of like how we saw Space Station, you think?
Most likely.
Definitely.
Well, I'm excited to see, and it looks like the players are ready. Our casters are ready. Guys, are you ready? That's what I like to hear. Let's head back to Tom and Anatoly.
Thanks a lot, Kelly. Thanks a lot, Taco. Thanks a lot, Fine OK. And I'm not a fan of best of 1 sentence, but we got a singleton, Toli. How you feeling?
We have a set here, finally, Tom. That Game 2 performance from Andinster, out of this world. You can tell that Space Station catered their draft and their bans around this Daji pick, making sure that the pull's more valuable, banning away the Geb, taking the Karin for themselves. They explain that very well at the desk.
This draft, there is so much here to unwrap than game number 1 and game number 2. This really feels... This feels like a post-sideboard game. Game 1 and game 2, both teams said, here's our strategy, and we believe in it. And Space Station didn't really execute what they wanted to do, so they lose game number 1. Game 2, they go, hey, we're totally fine, we can do it better. They do it better, literally the same entrance to the Titan room, and they take game 2. Game number 3, though, a very different scenario. Dignitas coming a little bit more earlier from their late game prowess, and then Space Station kind of leaning a little bit differently as well.
Well, it's because of Trixtank. The Najal worked in game number 1. I think this Fenrir should work in game number 3, knowing how popular this pick was at the placements. I'm actually surprised that we're only seeing it in game number 3. I believe it was banned during the secondary ban phase in both games 1 and 2, and this is what a Fenrir is capable of. He's just gonna hold down his left click button and chase you, stacking up that passive, trying to stun you on the Unchained.
Well, he misses that one, but he's still gonna be able to basic attack BaRRa. And this was, again, Trixtank talking about returning to his roots, being aggressive, being annoying. He's a thorn in SSG's side. Trixtank hasn't gotten any farm, but neither has SSG. Meanwhile, Dignitas' carry, Arkkyl, he's eating. He's feeling pretty.
That's right. BaRRaCCuDDa needs to go back to that wave. The purple buff will be delayed. Normally, a team that doesn't have lane pressure concedes the first wave to get their own buff and then come back in with at least an advantage of that penetration aura to fight back. But this time around, delaying it should give Dignitas still that early game pressure they're looking for, especially now that Arkkyl has the red buff.
Trixtank and Zyrhoes going to have a nice little combination. Fine, okay, brought it up at the desk where Trix is going to be able to just deliver players to Zyrhoes. They're going to shove an apple in his face, and that player probably going to die. Kind of similar to what we saw in game number 1 from the Naja Thoth combo.
It's a different style, right? It's all about the madness effect of the Strife, the passive amplifying the early game aggression damage, which is probably going to be leaning towards Trixtank's Fenrir.
That's the key right there, Toli, is that Thoth guy, as left side gets a little aggressive, Thoth guy's looking to sit on his hands and show up at 20. This is a composition Discordia can get involved a little bit earlier. She's a mid-game monster and late game will continue that dominance, but she can certainly be a little bit more interesting, I'd say, earlier than what Thoth can be.
I totally agree with you. I think there's more of an incentive now, though, for Dignitas to try to put early pressure. With the Fenrir support, it's looking like BaRRaCCuDDa could go down. No cooldowns, though.
Nice body blocks, but the jump and the basic Trixtank. First blood for Team Dignitas.
Just narrowly needing the stun, needing the basic attack, calculating that he would still survive after retreating from the tier 1 tower. It was games 1 and 2 where Space Station's Andinster got the first blood, but this time Europeans are on the court.
I think that has a lot to do with the selection as well. Naja was an interesting first blood seeker, but Fenrir, oh man, the stun is really what allows him to take care of it. Let's take a second look at Trixtank jumping in there with the Fenrir. Respawn first blood on the screen, and there it is. Jumps up number 1, and then he follows him with the Brutalize. Now he's got enough runes, and he's gonna follow him up with a secondary jump.
It's so important to use your strengths and advantages. Brutalize chasing through the Ayujitsu, being able to chase you down, whether or not that was before or after, is an afterthought. And hitting the first Unchained resets the cooldown, I believe, from 15 seconds to 7.5, so it's very easy to make that calculated decision. Trixtank, known for being aggressive, did not falter in getting that first blood.
Dignitas now staying aggressive, looking for the purple buff here on the left-hand side. Trixtank and friends able to successfully get the invade. So a first blood and an invade, and Dignitas are 1,000 gold up just 3.5 minutes in. This is a dangerous spot to be in if you're SSG.
And the combination of losing the timing of getting their first purple buff, delaying the red buff even from Andinster at level 1 was a small hit. That's the little things Dignitas have been able to do this game that Space Station couldn't do in games 1 and 2 when they were the ones with the first blood.
It's absolutely true. Dignitas have to look for something else, though. They can't just sit, get the first blood and sit pretty here. I want to see some more out of the jungle. Andinster on the Circuit was able to run rampant. Qvofred, a little bit different.
Different style, different relic choices. It was Andinster with Blink, Qvofred trying to play it more calculated. Needs to get out of the dodgy powwow, goes for the purification beads. It's a respectable decision because I think Dignitas would prefer Andinster to jump first so that Qvofred can jump second and play cleanup crew.
Well, a lot of what Space Station doing or surrounds this double need to have the beads situation. I think, again, Fine OK kind of touched it beautifully on the desk. And we'll talk about it in a moment. BaRRaCCuDDa getting jumped on, but too tanky for Andinster quite yet. BaRRaCCuDDa walking back into lane, has Trixtank over the top, there's the stun, Ragnarok breaks him under, BaRRaCCuDDa with the X sends him back to base. Dignitas, 2 kills to none.
This is the earliest death Andinster has had all set. He has been taken advantage of for not having purification beads and still playing aggressive with the blink, looking for the plays. You said BaRRaCCuDDa was tanky, and that's not the case. It's actually the lack of damage coming from Andinster at this stage of the game.
Andy not having beads is going to be a big deal. That's my thesis statement if I'm Team Dignitas. I am looking for this jungler every single time till he hits level 12. I want to farm him. I want to kill him. I want to take advantage of the Daji.
You want to be able to force out the powwow as well if you really can and make sure that's going to be used defensively instead.
I started talking about it before. Ares Hun Bats, I think, is the classic combo, where you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And here, powwow and taunt is the same thing. You've got to taunt yet. You got to beat Steph's taunt.
Yes.
But then you get pulled in by the powwow. You got to beat the powwow, but then you get pulled in with the taunt. So you got to, again, the impossible decision. That's what the coaches are looking for. They want to make the opponent go, what do I do?
Well, Dignitas certainly know what to do as they're kind of waiting for this awkward red buff invade, securing it for themselves. Feeling very good about that one, considering they lost it repeatedly over and over in the first 2 games.
Space Station a little bit more powerful in the early game, but again, that's where this Discordia comes in. That's where this Fenrir comes in. Dignitas a little bit better equipped to kind of deal what SSG has been giving them as far as the earlier aggression. Dignitas still with a large lead, now about 2,000 gold, Toli. This is problematic.
Oh, it is. It's getting worse and worse for the North Americans.
Nice ultimate.
Powwow being used defensively, but the Ragnarok lasts long enough to still have CC immunity.
That snap reaction from Andinster. So impressive. Shout out to Zyrhoes though, trusting the teammate there. Expecting Ragnarok to hit, so he just tosses the apple. Unfortunately, the ultimate does get Andy out of trouble. But again, I said it before, Andy doesn't have beads. Kill this guy. I'm liking the Digger focusing it.
And without the powwow, he's a sitting duck now for the next, like, 60 seconds or so when that ultimate's back up. No cooldown reduction yet for the North American jungler. If I'm Dignitas, I'm doing exactly as you mentioned, Tom, sitting on the jungler.
Well, there's a blink on top of the solo lane. 2 versus 1 variety up in the crypt. And a third player shows up. Here comes Arkkyl as he uses his own Chernobog. And Aquarius will get the kill. Space Station Gaming on the board.
But can they retreat? Qvofred has speed buff. He's very fast. Double dash coming from Aquarius. JeffHindla might be the target, but no, without Blink, Qvofred can't really cut the distance.
Just a little bit too far away. Space Station wiggle out of there. They get variety. They're able to walk home, look a little bit happier.
This is what you need from Space Station Gaming. Abusing variety before he's a full tank. Working on the Void Stone right now. Doesn't really have physical defense to handle the pressure from Andinster that's trying to finish off a penetration item. Likely to be the Jotun's Wrath.
Pings coming out. Team's very well aware of where that mid lane Discordia is. Zyrhoes trying to be a little cheeky, but he's by himself, so no follow-up there just yet. The rest of Space Station grouping up in the middle. And so Dignitas still have this lead going on here, about 2,000 gold. Where do they push it, or at all? Do they not push it, and do they just play it safe?
They're not going for objectives, I think, unless they can find multiple kills. It's all about controlling the neutral objectives in mid-camps. And if you're Space Station, it's a play like this, going onto the soul lane. But Andy,
the answer!
Killed.
Variety takes care of Andinster. He goes a little bit too deep, and he gets punished. Solo lane Baron Samedi with the 1v2 kill.
Venenu forced to beat after the Ragnarok. Trixtank could be in a little bit of trouble at half health. One snipe hits, second one misses, third one still being charged, trying to confirm the red buff.
3 on 2. Jeff has the apple. Gonna go down. Zyrhoes picks off one. Space Station are still here. Dignitas, respectful of Venenu's damage output, does not want to turn on the mid lane Chiron. They're going to show their face, but slink back into the jungle and look towards the first objective of the game.
I was just talking about how they needed multiple picks to get this Gold Fury. Qvofred trying to go onto BaRRaCCuDDa, needs a basic attack, can't find it for the last hit.
Gold Fury goes down. If Qvo dies here, he's zoning. But here comes Chernobog out of nowhere. You're going home.
Trading out. Arkkyl finding the kill there, trading the jungler for BaRRaCCuDDa. Not a bad spot, shutting him down. Still, look at this 3-level advantage. Arkkyl sitting at level 10, still working on the Devil Glove stack, and after this Gold Fury, should have enough to complete it.
I started my esports career writing game recaps for SK Gaming. If I travel back in time and have to do that again, Toli, what we just watched is what I call the turning point of the game. That Gold Fury took a 2,000 gold lead, which is something that Space Station can fight into nearly a 4,000 gold lead. That's the beginning of something that Dignitas can start sieging towers. They can just walk in and demand a fight and take the wallet of Space Station. SSG aren't out of it by any stretch, but this is the moment that Dignitas look back at and go, that play put us in position to take the game.
I think also the play of Andinster epically failing at that tier 1 tower is going to cost Space Station. It's not just the almost 4,000 gold lead, but it's the beyond 5,000 experience that Dignitas have amounted for themselves that they're going to keep abusing this 3-level lead between Arkkyl and BaRRaCCuDDa. I think Zyrhoes is going to make a bigger impact. It's a race to level 12, and Space Station are way behind.
You hit the nail on the head, Tolly. The experience. Chernobog is a character right now that can be dangerous. Dangerous for SSG. Venenu picked up an apple a day, keeps the mid laner away. Venenu's going to fall down. And Zyrhoes gets the kill. Qvofred dodges the hand of Andinster. Backline Arkkyl takes care of the jungler. 2 for 1. Up, down, out of the Fenrir. But here comes Athena.
Aqua alongside JeffHindla looking for the damage, but didn't dash in time.
Great taunt. Great taunt. Is it enough, though? The follow-up from Variety. Get 3 players in. Zyrhoes, unruly magic. 2 kills for the mid lane out of Sweden. Another one, a full deicide for Team Dignitas.
This is why you draft Baron Samedi right there. 3-man pull, locking down Space Station. I like the attempt of countering, engaging with the defender of Olympus. But
Totally, look at the damage numbers.
The damage, yeah, like it was so much AoE damage coming from Dignitas. Space Station too clumped up with a secondary counter engage. 12.5 minutes in, Dignitas getting a Fire Giant uncontested.
That's the second turning point. They took the 4,000 gold lead, and I said Dignitas are able to look to force fights. Fenrir jumped on, isolated the player.
No way. Okay, I thought he was going to live for a second,
But look at that.
Arkkyl
Look at
comes
that.
in with the global cleanup.
Dignitas, they have the buddy system going on here. If you're at home, keep banning Chernobog in your ranked games, because Chernobog's a character that can get out of hand on the individual level. At a pro level, it's easier to mitigate the Chernobog ultimate, right?
Sure. You can still get slow, though. It's hard to really get away when the team is chasing you like Dignitas will.
The problem is, it's a rank game for Arkkyl. He's up 3, 4 levels. It doesn't matter. Somebody almost dies. He comes down, and just punches them in the mouth.
Arkkyl is only ahead because Trixtank has been so aggressive on this Fenrir.
Oh, I thought that was 15. I need glasses.
No,
He's still 4 levels ahead.
Yeah, it's actually absurd because BaRRaCCuDDa was shut down this entire game. No buffs for him realistically to speak of. He's level 9, not even in the double digits yet.
We speak very highly of Arkkyl oftentimes, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that in Season 5, Hunters are not the guy anymore. Very rarely is your Hunter player the go-to, the first option. But now we're going to see the fight. BaRRaCCuDDa goes in. Here comes Arkkyl. Barra's got help. Arkkyl still gets the kill.
The 1v1 goes the way of Arkkyl, technically a 1v3 at the end of the day, trying to survive in any way that he can. Andinster in the air, forcing out the beats from Qvofred, but the chase is on.
Zigzag, tail tag, see you later. Qvofred gets kill number 13, but ain't nothing bad luck going on for Dig right now. They're in the lead, they've got the game in their hands, and they're just waiting for the opportunity to bring it home.
Normally when you're in the powwow and you're trying to run, you don't want to chain because you want to blink away, but 20 seconds remaining on that cooldown. Andinster was a sitting duck. He knew he was dead to rights on that one.
I'm just starting to talk about how different Arkkyl is than the rest of the Hunters. And he takes the 1v3. I mean, just what can you ask out of this guy? Brutalized follows up. There's the ultimate. Trixtank's a support player, by the way.
BaRRaCCuDDa can't do anything. He's a level 12 support player without that much defense. No Lono's Mask yet for even more resiliency, but he's making the plays happen under the tier 2 tower, forcing the beats out of BaRRaCCuDDa, and you know Qvofred has that in the back of his mind.
So we're only 15 minutes into this one. Dignitas have absolute control, but the more that we wait, the more likely it is that Space Station are able to answer back. Right now, they just can't fight. They're down almost 10,000 gold, more like 9K. No defense on the tier 2, and I don't want to see it. But that said, where is Space Station's goal? I know they have to stall, but how do they do that, Tolly?
They need to lean on Aqua a little bit with some great engagements and a little bit of fortune if Dignitas spread and clump up together too much. The roots are going to come in fruitful. The Earth and Fury is a good way to swing team fights, lowering your opponent's damage, boosting your own damage numbers. And Aqua's going to have to step through. And he's had a good set, I would say, between the Cerberus, the Changa, now the Terra, really leaning on this kind of support-esque solo lane.
Shouts to Doug LeBlanc on the Observer, showing us the graphs right there, giving us a real view of how devastating this game has been for SSG. The crowd is as silent as I've heard them today. They're all behind this team. And Dignitas, they could be the big baddies. They could just take this set. Right now, they're absolutely in the driver's seat.
They certainly are. It was Trixtank in the beginning of the game that had the top player damage, getting that Discordia passive, but now in the later portion, it's Arkkyl. And with the Fire Giant coming up soon, that's important to get that kind of extra power, but Spacestation looking for any farm that they can, all will back safely. You know Trixtank wanted to stop someone from backing them.
Meanwhile, Tier 2 tower gone. Dignitas systematically retrieving everything off the map. Qvofred gets his beads chased out. Nice play there. I don't know if I like the Athena commit.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one either, but
SSG are just behind the 8 ball now. They realize that everything they do is everything they're doing right now is a Hail Mary. Look at this goal differential. Spacestation Gaming, they have to fight around this Fire Giant. They've got to look for an individual pick. Find a straggler or bait Arkkyl to use that ultimate hyper-aggressive.
That's a good way of putting it, the Hail Mary play. That's what Andinster did under that Tier 1 mid tower, chasing out Trixtank, sacrificing his own life along the way.
But the problem was they didn't need the Hail Mary then. So it just winds up a bad play. Now is when you need the Hail Mary play. Now is when you have to go in.
The problem is BaRRaCCuDDa is so far behind that his split push threat is non-existent.
Yeah, sure.
He is not dealing damage to these towers the same way Arkkyl is going to be dealing damage.
Is this something Space Station should have defended? I say no. I think they're way too far behind. But I want to see Venenu give it a shot.
That's the only real safe way that they could steal it and still get out. Because if you lose anybody, you're guaranteed losing your Phoenixes. And that's just going to spell trouble. Space Station brought it to a game 3, but the European team is looking solid to clean it out.
I've been accused of a lot of things, but under-emotional is not one of them. I'm mad. Why is SSG just sitting on their hands? That's a play. Venenu, send him out there. It's not a big deal if he dies. I would have liked to see it.
No vision. No vision around the Fire Giant. There could be several traps that Dignitas are setting up for you.
Right side, we got the 4-in-1 push. Jungler in the mid lane, the rest of the 4 from Dignitas fighting on the right-hand side. Trixtank gonna isolate Aquarius. There's the Terra ultimate, and they're gonna deal with him. Arkkyl gets the kill, takes him down. Jump into the back line. Here comes Trixtank. Control from Variety. And a reset.
But the problem with Space Station are fighting outside their Phoenixes. Dignitas were able to reset and re-engage for round number 2. Pal out from Andinster. Everyone's trying to wait. Trixtank doesn't have CC immunity.
One gets pulled in. Here comes Arkkyl. Ultimate use. BaRRaCCuDDa abuse. Number 15 for Team Dignitas. Right side Phoenix gone.
That Defender of Olympus needed to be used to save Andinster's life. Right side Firebird goes down. Middle soon to follow. Dignitas in full control of game 3.
Half HP on the Firebird so far, and Dignitas able to take it. Playing cautiously, carefully, Team Dignitas looking to collect game number 1. 19 minutes in, they have 2 Phoenixes. Totally, that is a faster game than we've seen for the past 2.
That's true. Game number 2 ended in 25 minutes or so. That was a very impressive ending that Space Station was able to abuse. But Dignitas are not going to bite into the Titan Siege quite yet. They still need their 6 items.
Could they have?
The respawn timers were not
Could
as
they
long.
have? Maybe Coach Biggie says no. Coach F-Dot says yes.
Well, that's why. What division are you in, F-Dot? You want to let the fans here know?
Those that can't play, cast, continue, Toli.
Well, there you go. That speaks volumes. So that's why they're on the stage, and we're over here.
What a different stage, sure. But Dignitas certainly in position at the moment. I mean, 20 grand. 20 grand is, I think, you take any team fight that walks up into the building. But I respect that Dignitas are doing this the right way, if you will.
They also had a lot of gold in hand.
Yep.
So if you go for the Titan there, you're essentially still fighting with about 4 items anyway without your 5th completed one.
The retreat there was, as I said, the right thing to do. They had enough time. The Fire Giant right now, there's still 56 seconds left on the buff. Oh my goodness. Dignitas now poised on the left side. Ready to go.
It's a 4-1 split. Jungler versus jungler in the mid. Everyone else trying to defend the left side. Phoenix. Qvofred actually spreading poison on the minions. I like that idea because of the timing.
But here comes SSG surging forward. Arkkyl already has 2. Big damage coming out of Zyrhoes, but it's all Arkkyl, baby. He's up on top. 3, that's 4. Arkkyl with a quadra kill. 1 player remains. Andy trying to dodge, trying to weave.
Yes,
Arkkyl, 5 up, 5 down. Pentakill for the Hunter out of France, and Team Dignitas take the set in 3 games.
The European team have definitely showed up in day number 1. It was tricky in game number 2 as Spacestation brought it back, but what a performance. You can never count out these Europeans.
I keep saying it, Arkkyl is the guy. Arkyl's the guy. He ends the game with a pentakill. Woof.
I don't know what he said.
Great plays all across, even from Space Station. A solid performance. Give a hand for your North American teams as well. They put up quite a show. Dignitas will advance to day number 2.
Got to show so much respect for SSG and what they were able to do. Their performance today brought them to a game 3. That's the best you can ask for out of a losing team here. And the gameplay that we saw was absolutely fantastic.
I agree. I think there was a lot of adaptations between both teams, but the aggression coming from Trixtank on this Fenrir was just too much for Space Station to handle.
Team Dignitas just like that off of the back of the Hunter. Arkkyl brings it home with a pentakill. Kelly, break it down.
Man, with how confident game number 2 was for Space Station Gaming, it was even more so of a domination for Dignitas there. Was it, and it just came down to the comps?
It just came down to the pressure. There was too much early game pressure for Space Station ever have an appropriate amount of time to actually get to that team fighting stage. They were just picked off non-stop. I think Qvo taking the Circuit really boded well for the team. Might not have had all the kills to himself, but that's where Arkkyl came into effect.
Yeah, I think the big deal was that they just didn't have the pressure like they did in game 1 and 2. Both of the first games, they had a lot of pressure in basically every lane, and we could see in that game 3 when they don't have pressure, and the enemy team, Dignitas, I mean, a really, really good team. They played off the pressure really well and got so many picks.
I just see the Arkkyl KDA right there, 12-1 and 5.
All over the place.
I think he had like a 5-level lead at one point in the game. At one point, BaRRa had like 10 Dev Glove stacks at like 15 minutes, that's something you don't want to see if you're a Space Station fan.
So clearly, Space Station Gaming didn't have that early pressure, but we saw Dignitas with not so much early pressure in game 1 and win. What could Space Station Gaming do a little differently? Does it seem like BaRRa was kind of focused?
Game 1 probably should have gone in Space Station's favor. I think that was mostly misplaced from Space Station that Dignitas then capitalized off of, and kudos to them as well, because it does take a certain skill level in order to appropriately punish teams for those small mistakes. And that was the problem, though, is that once you get to this stage, there is no room for those sort of moments to take place.
Yeah, Taco talked about it. If Dignitas executed that like 100%, they were going to win that game just based on the comps and the snowball, and they were able to snowball really well, and eventually it got Arkkyl a pentakill, which was pretty insane.
It's crazy. And Zyrhoes there on Discordia, you really do have to appreciate what the caster said, is that the belief that like any time Fenrir was going to jump and Trix jumped in with Fenrir, Discordia ulted. And there were some misses there, but those immediate ults is what led them to the win of those team fights.
It's teammate trust, because either way, it's a win-win situation for Dignitas, because worst case scenario, the jump doesn't go through, there's no stun applied, but actives might still be burned from Space Station. There's always the possibility of them panicking or rushing through a counter initiation. That could then be another moment for Dignitas to play off of.
I definitely rather them go for the play and possibly have a little bit of a misplay than just stay back, because if they're playing on Space Station side of the map, looking for red buffs, constantly looking for fights, if they mess up one of the fights, it's still going to be in their favor because of all the pressure that they've gained.
The next match that we have is going to be Splice versus Obey, with Dignitas going up against the winner of that. But first, we got to announce that MVP, and of course, with that ending pentakill there, it's going to Arkkyl.
Yeah, of course.
I think anybody would yell at us if we said otherwise.
I mean, even in game 2, the game that they lost, Arkkyl was kind of the shining light, and he still looked pretty good on the Uller, and I think he went Chiron, Uller into the Chernobog, and he just was devastating on the Chernobog.
So Splice, though, or Splice and Obey now watching game number 1, the first match of the day. What did they learn from Dignitas? What are they going to now use that when one of them faces them in the semifinals?
early game is important, but Dignitas doesn't really seem to place much emphasis towards establishing a front line. So much is what they seem to just be focused around having the burst initiation to follow up.
Yeah, they kind of drafted in like a death ball comp kind of situation. BaRRaCCuDDa picked Baron Zombie, I think, all 3 games, and they just play around each other like all 5-man the entire time. That's part of the reason that Spacestation went wrong in the game 1. It seemed like Dignitas was grouped really well, whereas Spacestation was kind of all over and split.
So is this going to end the curse now for Dignitas? Are they going to start performing on land? They seem to have a little bit of the jitters in game number 1, but even won it still. Do you think that they've shaken that off?
Definitely. I think they have a lot more confidence now after winning that game against the hometown favorites.
They're hungry.
Yeah.
Dignitas have been wanting this for so long, Qvo and Trix especially, and now with that first win under their belts, I think that's the breath of relief. That's the weight being lifted off of your shoulders and kind of the reality setting in that we have a real chance to do this.
And I mean, going up against Splice versus Obey, do you feel like Dignitas is more dominant than them? Do you think that that looks like a good matchup between either of those 2 teams?
I think we'll have to wait and see how Splice and Obey are playing against each other. If Splice comes out and they're not picking anything too crazy, then I think Dignitas will definitely be the favorites in that matchup.
It's going to be exciting to see everyone. In just a few moments, we are going to have an interview with our winning team there, Dignitas. But guys, going into match number 2, we are going to have a little bit of a break in between our matches, but I do just want to touch on it a little bit. Splice versus Obey, 2 very different teams.
It's not even just differences as far as like compositions and drafting is concerned, but it's just play styles as a whole. I think that we primarily tend to see Captain Twig and Pretty Prime being the standout Catalyst members for Obey. They're usually the ones who get things up and running, and then the rest of the team will start to like pile in. But for Splice, it almost entirely feels like everything is weighted onto that dual lane.
Yeah, I think that the Soul Laners actually have some pretty similar play styles, Divios and Xaylia. They tend to play for the team fights, even before the meta was focused on only playing for the team fights in solo. I think they both really like Nike as well, so I feel like that's going to be a contested pick in that matchup.
Do you think there's a reason that we didn't really see them prioritize Nike in the match 1?
I just think it's a play style thing. I don't think BaRRaCCuDDa or Aqua are really Nike players. If they are going to play some low pressure gods, they're usually going to play like the Guardians or something, maybe even the mages like Baron. So.
All right, guys, that was an amazing first set that we saw going in the way of Dignitas, and we have 2 of the players ready right now for an interview.
Hey guys, how you doing? Dignitas. First of all, congratulations on the win. My first question is going to be to Trixtank. You had to get back to playing regular old Guardians for a while. That's not your style. How happy are you to return to the weird stuff?
I think that's it for you.
So they're going to look out for that as well. But yeah, I'm happy that the meta has kind of changed into something I like more, some aggressive play, an aggressive play style. The Fenrir game obviously showed my aggressiveness, and it was a good game, yeah.
There's been a lot of talk about coming in cold to this event versus playing in last week placements. It seemed like that did not stop you guys at all. Really throwing a strategy. Are we expecting more of these curveballs like Naja supports?
Maybe. Can't get anything away, so maybe.
I think we definitely started slow. We were a bit risky in our draft the first 2 games, and they punished us for that, I think, especially in the second game. But in the third game, we just said, let's just commit to certain picks and play our play style. And when we finished the draft, I said in the comms, it's going to click now, we're going to roll over them, and they did. So.
Jungle and mid usually run the game here in Season 5, but you guys, we were talking about it even before everything went crazy. Arkkyl has always been a strong kind of player for your team, more so than other hunters for other teams. Talk to me a little bit about how you guys played through Arkkyl, and then Arkkyl, if you'd like to comment on how it's like being the guy.
I think I improved a lot over the year. I was not as confident before, but now I think I got it.
Arkkyl, when we picked up Arkkyl, he had a lot of pure talent. I think for me, he's potentially the best player in the world, honestly. And the thing about it is, he just needs to kick up the arse sometimes, and that's keep him in line. So, but I mean, he's really switched up and shown up this split.
So my last question to you guys, who would you rather face in the winner of the next set, Obey Alliance or the other one?
Don't care.
Bring it on.
Both of them.
A bit. We want to beat the best. We want to beat our bear.
True.
One game at a time. Again, fantastic stuff out of Team Dignitas. What we've come to expect, in all honesty. Congratulations on the victory, and we'll catch up with you guys a little bit later.
Cheers.
Thank you.